Hello and welcome back to Lesh Art. My name is Mark Lesh, and today I will be teaching you how to draw and how to build up paint to create a realistic looking eye. If you are a beginner artist or a student who is looking to improve on how you draw the human figure and how to put proportions on correctly on the face, then this video will hopefully be good for you. I'm a teacher and an amateur artist, and so my goal is to try to break this down step by step for you. Today's video, I'm going to do it in two stages. First step, I'm going to draw this eye down here again, show you how to begin it, how to do it all step by step, explain a little bit along the way. I might speed up the video just so you can see it quicker, and I'll just put some thingamajiggies up here, subtitles. And then next thing I'll do is I'm going to take this, which is actually not finished. This is just a quick little sketch-a-doodle I did here with some burnt umber in oil paint, and I'm going to build it up using some skin tones and show you how to apply the paint the correct way. And again, I'll speed it up a bit. So let's start now. Okay, so the eye. You can see here you've got your pupil, your iris, your eyelid, all that good stuff here. If you notice here, I drew what's the outline of a nose here and the eyebrow just above. I'm not going to zoom out right now. Let's just get right to it. To draw the eye, okay, first you have to know where you're putting it on a face. All right, so for example, if I were to sketch out a human head here, sounds kind of weird to say it like that, but if I were to sketch out the figure's head here, all right, the eyes go directly in the middle. If you think about the head being like an egg, the eyes go right in the dead center. As far as where they go though, okay, you have to think a little bit mathematically with this. You have to break it up into fifths. Okay, so if you were to draw a line from one side of the face to the other, right across the middle, you have to break it up into 5 equal parts. The center equal part of the fifths is right here where the nose would be. The next one over would be your eye, and then the next part over would be the blank space of the skin that goes along to your hairline, and then the same repeats over here. Okay, depending on the person though, the eyes might be a little wider, a little smaller, a little closer to the nose, a little further apart, but in general, fifths are the way to go for this. Okay, your eyes are not that big. Most people make the mistake of focusing on the eyes first. I've seen people artists where they actually draw or paint the eyes in after everything else, so they don't create some oversized, ridiculous looking thing. But the eyes really only take up a small amount of space. Okay, so if I were to draw the person here, and this is like the sockets of their eyes, and I would do the eyelids here and the iris and the pupil and all that. If you want to make it look realistic, fifths are the way to go. You don't want to overdraw them. Unless you're doing anime, manga, well then go for it. Make them as big as you want. Because I know that when I was a kid growing up, I loved drawing anime characters and my eyes were oversized, but I knew it. A lot of people don't know it. You got to break up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. Okay, but to draw the eye, let's get started here. A lot of ways to do it. If you are doing what I just did here, okay, you can see if I'm drawing the whole face, you kind of have this area here where the eye is, all right, and you want to build the eye inside of that oval shape you've drawn there. If you look up here, you can kind of see that oval shape existing right here. So I'm not going to use the whole thing because there's a lot of parts to the eye. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the upper eyelid. That's the first thing I like to do at least. You draw the upper eyelid because then from there you can kind of place where your the actual iris and pupil go. For me, I like to do this way because then when you notice I'm not drawing super dark right now, I can always go back and do that. I can add a dark line if I want to, but I like to just draw very lightly so I can kind of, if I make mistakes, it works. You can see that solid line now kind of looks a little definite. I don't like to work definitely right away where I want to put my lines. I like to play with it. But here we go. I like to then draw what people would just say is your eye, which is the pupil and the iris. I like to draw it like that. I like to draw part of it covered up by the eyelid, just a little bit. It looks realistic that way. So if you were to draw the circle here, you'll notice that if this were my eyelid, the definitive line there, part of it gets covered up there, okay? And then you leave a little space here below for your actual white of your eye, okay? Now from here, this is where it gets a little tricky. If you were drawing a cartoon character or something really simple, you could just go ahead and draw in the nice little black dot there, all right, and you could call it quits and just say, look at me, I drew an eye, and it wouldn't look bad, okay, because you kind of have the parts here. It looks a little lopsided there, but we're going to work on that in a second. You could just stick to it like that, but that's not going to look like this. There's more to it than that, but if you're just drawing a cartoon character, well, some people just leave it like this with a little shading, and that's it. But let's go into a little more detail than that. If I want to actually draw this here, you'll notice if you look at your eye very carefully, that there is, honestly, a solid darker line here that curves around, and then it does actually shade in a bit. There is a fairly, I wouldn't say it's black if you were to paint this, but it is a fairly darker solid line that wraps around right here. As far as your pupil goes, right in the center here, you have to be careful because if you color it in all black right away, you're making a mistake, because you can see up here, I left a little bit of a white patch here. I can erase this. Great thing about working in pencil, you can just erase, and you do want to color it in fairly dark, but you want to leave some areas where there's evidence of light reflecting. So I like to actually just section off a little piece like that there, and then this part here, you can even just leave completely open, almost like a Pac-Man sideways here, and then that gives the illusion of a really bright streak of light shining there that you can't see the actual iris behind it. So from there, or rather the pupil there. Now from here, you just shade in a little bit. I like to use irregular lines here. Sometimes I make them really dark, sometimes I make them a little lighter. If I'm having the light shine here, I'm gonna leave it lighter there too. But then along the sides here, I'll make it a little darker, and then just create that like this, all right? It doesn't look 100% perfect but for a quick sketch with pencil, it's pretty decent. Now from here, this is kind of like a painter's tip here, but it works actually for sketching too. I like to darken in where the eyelid meets with your pupil up here, or your iris. I like to darken that whole area there. I even kind of blur it a little bit so it looks like your pupil is kind of like blending into the rest there. It creates a nice shadowed effect there that looks pretty realistic. And then from here, this is where it gets a little tricky. Your eyelid, you do want to draw a fairly good line there. And this is where kind of just scribbling a bit helps, because now you've already shaded in some of this here. I have my eyelid drawn there. I'm not going to completely wrap it closed there. I'm going to leave it a little bit open there. But what I will do is I will bring this down, and I'm going to draw, I'm not going to make it come back around in a circle. I'm actually going to make it more like a, well, just kind of like a little thingamajig sticking out there. That's some really scientific terminology there. It's not going to wrap around perfectly though. I have it pop out a bit, and then I'll have it come down like this, and then I'll wrap it around, curve it, and I'll bring it actually. If this is my, sometimes I have to go back and add a little more of an upper eyelid here. I'll have it wrap up and under here like this, okay? If you look at your eyelids, you do see a little bit of overlap there. Your eye kind of curves up into it a little bit like that, all right? Now from here, I like to complete where, if this curve is coming up like this, I finish it so it looks like I can see the eyeball behind it, and then from there, I will shade in where all that flesh tone is here and make it a little darker, and then I'll just gently shade it and kind of bring it out. You can use your finger to smudge it a bit, which is awesome. You can even use like a little rolled up piece of paper to smudge it a bit to create that effect. Same goes for over here. You can use your finger and just smudge it around a little bit. You want to have the corners of the eyes a little darker, obviously, so that when you look at the center area, it kind of pops out a little bit. And then you can just go back and draw again. You can just take your pencil. If your marks are now blurred a bit from too much smudging, you go back and add more, and it creates a nice detail look there. Now from here, this is where you'll see it better when I paint it, but when you want to draw this looking real, you actually want to draw the eyelid here. You can see it pretty well. When you zoom in on a picture of someone, you can see the eyelid. And this part is going to be lighter. This is probably the lightest part of the eye, I think. When I go to paint, I use my lightest, brightest paint here, except for what I put for the dots there. I like to show off that flesh tone, that like really like glistening look there. It separates itself from the white of the eye. So one thing that you might want to do even, I honestly think sometimes, depending on how the light captures the eye, that this little piece of skin here is actually, and this curves up, this can actually be brighter sometimes than the white of the eye. Now from there, that was a little too weird. We're going to add in the eyelashes. Okay, they actually grow out of here. So if you want to do some eyelashes, you don't put them sticking straight out of your eyeball. You have them coming out of this flap of skin here. And you can just blur the lines here. Again, you can just kind of blur it out so that it's no longer noticeable. In this area here, you can start to, this is going to be your actual skin. This will be darker. So if you wanted to actually start to just kind of scribble a little bit and then smear it, you can, and then you kind of give the effect of this looking a little bit lighter because everything else gets shaded out a bit. After this then, what I like to do is add the top eyelashes. Now I could do this a lot quicker if I was just doing this by myself, but I'm trying to break this down for you. I add the eyelashes, I just scribble them in. Obviously, if someone's wearing eyeshadow, eyeliner, whatever it's called, I'm sorry, I don't know makeup too well, but it's gonna go on thicker. Painting wise, you kind of add some of that like effect out here. People put this, whatever this stuff is. You'll have to excuse my ignorance with this. If you smear it, go back and add a few more hard lines there to create the effect of the eyelashes. If you blur them out, it creates a nice smoky effect there. And then from here, what I like to do is add that line that shows the age. If you've not slept enough, need coffee, you add that line that goes beneath your eye, raccoon eyes, which I have. When I paint myself for self-portraits, I see raccoon eyes. Now, this is your eye. That's fairly decent. And then what you want to do too is consider where the eyebrows go. I'm not gonna draw the whole face here, but the eyebrows actually, you know, carve out where that depression is, where your eye socket is. And you know, the eyebrows kind of like are the part that stick out the most, and everything goes in from there. So really, wherever you have your eyebrows, they kind of wrap around where your eyelid is, but higher up, obviously. There's going to be a depression here, and you are going to want to shade it. Now, depending on if people use makeup that make it shine, you might have some brighter spots. I tend to notice that right here it gets a little darker. Sometimes though, depending on the light capture, that can be the lighter part. So if you're painting or drawing off of a picture, notice what's right here. It's going to be a little bit of a lighter, darker color than what is right here. And then it just depends on where the light's hitting. This part here could be an all shadow because light could be coming from this direction. And that could change where you want to add the light and dark shading to your eyeball here. But one thing to note is that, and I always do this, it's easy, is that wherever the eyebrow is wrapping around, you can guarantee your nose line line is right around there too. No one has a nose that connects straight up to your eyebrow unless you're doing some wacky abstract look there, but it is a guideline and it's where you're gonna see your shading taking place. So depending on what you're doing, this is where your shading area is gonna be, okay? And it's pretty easy just to map out. So there's my eyebrow. Okay, looks terrible. This is not an eyebrow lesson right now. I just want to show you where it would be placement-wise. And then this is where your nose would be, okay? Where it would start to come up here in this direction with the shine. The shine would be right there. And this is where it would start to get darker, depending on what angle the light's hitting you from. But that is basically how you would sketch out an eye. And remember, this part here to this part here is just 1/5 of the length. It's just 1 out of 5 parts. This whole section here, if it's this big here, your next eye shouldn't start till over here, which is into the next frame. So you got a big space. Depending on the person though, men and women, their eyes can be a little bit different, shifted closer and further apart. So maybe the 5th would be right here, actually, okay? And then 1, 2, I guess I would count this as being maybe not in the 5th. But the point is this, you don't want to draw them too big. This is a guideline. It's not going to be perfect. You can always pull off some fancy tricks with gridding, or, you know, if you're doing something on a computer, you could just map it out that way, cheat a little bit and see how it looks. So there's the sketch, okay? Now what I'm going to do, I didn't use this at all. Oh well, I'll just put, not using that there. Just going to go straight up to this. I'm going to do this. This is going to be sped up for sure because I'm probably going to be fooling around with the paint a little bit, and you don't want to see that. You just want to see the magic fast forward stuff going on here. So what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to lay paint down. I'm going to use skin tones, which I did do a video on. So if you want to watch that, you can watch that. I'm going to do the exact same thing here with the shading process, but using different color paint. I'll put up some words on the screen and you can see what colors I use to kind of pull different parts off, okay? So here we go. So hopefully that was a little helpful to you to see how to build up the paint. I made a couple changes, decided to switch the eye color, so redid that to blue just to show off the difference between the pupil and iris and not work with the burnt umber anymore, so you could see how it would build up a little bit. You can see just about kind of how it matches up, hopefully. Obviously, if I just did this out of my head, but if I were to be painting this, or based on a real live subject, or if I were just doing it off of a picture I had, I would match up the skin tones a heck of a lot better. But I just wanted to show off the regions a little bit and play around with colors so you could see how this builds up and how this looks and how you want to separate it and work with it to create what you did with your sketch. So I hope that helps you guys out. If it was of use to you, I hope your paintings improve, yada, yada, yada. Enjoy your day. Hope you liked it, and hopefully see you for some other videos.